Good afternoon. I hope you're enjoying the virtual holistic summit already. There's been a lot of good talks and there's a lot of talks to come. My name is David Heine and I'm the co-founder of Manta Mindworks. I'm here today to talk to you about the mind and how hypnosis affects the mind. Habit and trauma, some of the patterns that we see within the mind. I've spent the last 30 years off and on studying the mind in various capacities. That's led me through artificial intelligence. That's led me through philosophy, religion, psychology, and ultimately into hypnosis. And a lot of really interesting things on how we can facilitate real change fast with hypnosis in the mind. Before we talk about the mind, let's go back and talk about some of the evolution of the brain. When the early organisms started to develop a central nervous system, they needed to control the muscles and the organs, the reptilian brain was developed. This is pretty much what we call the brainstem today, where the autonomic systems in our body are controlled, our heart rate, our respiration, our motor control. This allowed more complicated creatures to develop and have more complicated internal systems. Any learning that happened at this point was purely by genetic alteration and was done through the generations. As time went on, the brain kept developing and getting more and more complicated. The next segment of the brain that developed was what we call the mammalian brain. And this is the emotion center of the brain. Now that these creatures started developing emotions, we started to be able to bond together in tribes and groups and families, and found that cooperative living was more successful than non-cooperative living, which was a huge boom for us. Learning was still done at a generational level. So, the next major development for our purpose today was the neocortex and the subconscious mind. In the subconscious mind, we started developing the ability to see patterns and understand one outcome versus another outcome based on those patterns. And what I mean by this is, if you had two trees where you could get food, and you'd go over to the one tree and there was never any food, and you'd go over to the other tree and there's always food, it would behoove you to go to the tree with the food. And so you could learn now within your own lifetime. And this was big for these organisms as they developed. The next major step was the conscious mind. The conscious mind allowed us to operate in abstracts and to develop language. So now Bob could teach me, hey, this tree never has food, that tree has food. So I could learn from Bob's experiences and not have to experience it directly myself. As you can see, this really would accelerate knowledge, accelerate our learning, because now I can learn from other people's experiences and not have to go through the whole thing myself. Your conscious mind is where the you resides that you identify as. So as you make decisions for the day, such as what are you going to wear and what are you going to eat, those are conscious mind decisions. This only constitutes about 10% of your overall brain power. The other 90% is in what we call the subconscious mind. And this subconscious mind is where the patterns of your life are built, your habits, your behaviors, your automatic responses. The subconscious mind is responsible for reminding you to pick your keys up on the way out, or really actually just even picking up your keys on the way out as you're heading out the door. Your behaviors such as walking and muscle memory, these are all subconscious patterns. And the subconscious has another huge component that it helps your conscious mind with called filtering. At any given time, you've got so much information coming in. In fact, right now, you may be watching this presentation on a computer screen, but there's other information around you flooding into your eyes, flooding into your ears. The air conditioner maybe, the heater, the sound of the cars going by. Your subconscious is picking up all of this and filtering it out, and only giving your subconscious the information it needs to focus on the task at hand. And let me give you a great example. When I was younger and learning to drive, I was very frustrated. I had so many things I was trying to take care of. I was watching my speedometer. I was watching my tire, worried about my tires. I wasn't watching the tires. I was worried about my tires. My passenger. I know you're not supposed to deal with the radio, but I had the radio too. I had all these things that were coming at me constantly while I'm checking my mirrors, and I was frustrated and thought I could never accomplish it. But what happened with practice is that eventually my subconscious realized, hey, you know what? I can watch a speedometer for him. So every once in a while, I just glance down, and it would notice if there's a change. If the speed stayed within the range that it needed to be, it didn't bother. But if it got out of that, it might alert my conscious mind going, hey, you need attention here. When I'd glance to the mirrors, same thing. The subconscious mind could worry if something was encroaching in or out of my lane so that my conscious mind didn't have to be tied up thinking about it. And now, practically, I can drive asleep. In fact, we sometimes do. We call it road hypnosis. That's the point when you kind of snap to and you go, wait a minute, where am I? I've been driving for miles and miles and not paying attention. I'm 3 exits past where I needed to go, but you did it safely. That's called road hypnosis. I don't recommend you using it, but it happens. So we're going to talk a little bit later about a couple of the major patterns in the subconscious mind. We're going to talk about habit, and we're going to talk about trauma. But first, we're going to get into how hypnosis affects the subconscious mind. So what is hypnosis, and does it work? Whenever I introduce myself as a clinical hypnotist, the most common question I get is hypnosis real? And I'm here to tell you, absolutely, it is real. In fact, we're going to talk about trance. You go into trance on a regular basis. Whenever you read a good book or watch a good movie and get so engrossed and ingrained in it, that's an element of trance. We've talked about that road hypnosis. Right there's a great example of trance. In fact, whenever you're concentrating and focusing on getting a task done to the exclusivity of everything else, that's a trance. And hypnosis is basically just the purposefully inducing that trance in order to get some work done. So some of the changes we do on a regular basis with hypnosis is we change habits, we change behaviors, we can reduce stress, we can reduce anxiety, we even stop people with smoking and weight loss. The possibilities are actually endless. People ask, and they're worried that, well, you're going to make me do things that I don't want to do. And that's not necessarily true. The fact is, the mind will correct itself. So let's just say, this is one of my favorite examples, that if I was to hypnotize you right now, I could probably convince you the sky is green. Take you outside and point to the sky and ask you what color that is, and you'd probably tell me emphatically, it's green. But later on, you think about it and you go, it's not really green. Maybe a little green. And then the next day you'd wake up and you'd look at the sky and go, why did I ever think it was green? Your subconscious is an automatically correcting system. So if you have information or you have knowledge that contradicts these type of suggestions from hypnosis, they will be rejected. On the other hand, if it goes along the lines of with what you want, it gets ingrained solid in your person. So how do we accomplish hypnosis? Well, we do it by simply we relax the conscious mind. We keep it occupied with imagery and then use language specific that talks to the subconscious. The subconscious mind only works in positives, and so we have to really structure our language very peculiarly in order to get the subconscious to engage with it. And that's really what we do. So we'd put you in a chair, we'd do some little exercises to relax the body, we'd relax the mind, we'd go through the change work, and we might be as simple as telling your subconscious, you are not going to do this, or you are going to do this, you are going to be a superhero. Bring you back out of it, and then those changes get implanted in the subconscious. That's really all it is to it. So yes, hypnosis is real. So habits, what are they? And what's the difference between a good versus bad habit? Let me tell you a little story about my showering habits. And just bear with me for a minute. I used to have a shower caddy on the wall, the kind that you'd put in the liquid soaps and liquid shampoos. And that became part of my showering habit. And one day my wife was cleaning the shower and bumped into it and knocked it off the wall. Wasn't a big deal until I went to go shower the next day. And I'd go through my shower routine and hit a point where I needed to shampoo my hair, and I would reach for the shower caddy, and it wasn't there. So I'd turn around and look for shampoo somewhere else, and it wasn't there. I turned back around and looked for my shower caddy, and it still wasn't there. Turned around and reached for shampoo, that still wasn't there. I got stuck in a small loop until my conscious mind stepped up and go, whoa, something's different here. My shower habit became such an ingrained habit that it threw me for a loop for a moment. And my wife still finds this story funny. In fact, if you hear a little giggling, that's probably her in the room giggling right now. But that's okay. That's what habits are. They're the automatic responses that our subconscious builds in order to do something good for us. Okay, in this case, it might have been trying to save me time. So during the shower, I didn't have to consciously think about each step of the way. And it's a lot like walking. You know, walking's not a habit per se, it's still a subconscious pattern, but it offloads some of that into the subconscious. It's important to know that the subconscious always has a positive intention behind whatever it does. So these habits were being done for a positive outcome. Now this becomes really interesting when you look at something such as a smoking habit. Through my work with smoking cessation clients, the number one reason they picked up smoking was to be cool. And as you look at that from a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, or even 50-year-old mindset, that seems silly, if not even downright stupid. But from that adolescent mindset of wanting to be accepted into a group, wanting to feel cool and be edgy, it's a very important thing. And so it's possible that the subconscious builds that habit with that positive intention of being cool, let's just say. Hypnosis is very effective at helping with this because we can go into that memory and we can go into that subconscious and actually tell it, you can be cool other ways. You don't need this to be cool. In fact, smoking is not a positive thing for you, it's a very negative thing for you. And as those changes are done in the subconscious, it becomes easy to change in your life. In fact, the desire to smoke just winds up going away. No willpower, it's just gone. So can we change these habits? Absolutely. The smallest things, my shower example earlier. My caddy's gone, and so I have to find a new way of showering and shampooing my hair. Did I build a new habit? Darn tootin' I did, you know. And you want to see if you can change habit, just go stay in a hotel for a night. Your whole surroundings are different. Your environment's different. Everything's different. You have to change. So we can definitely change and adapt. Well, why is it so hard to change a bad habit? Well, because they get down deep in our subconscious, and we don't even notice them. In fact, a lot of the things you do, you don't notice. I didn't notice how I showered until I couldn't shower that way, and then all of a sudden, oh wow, now it's right out there in the open. So, like with that smoking example, you may not notice that you're picking up that cigarette every morning. You may not notice when you're smoking. You may not notice those other habits. But they're there. And once we can call attention to them, once we can help with hypnosis, that change becomes easy. So what is trauma and how does it affect my daily life? I define trauma as the inappropriate response to a certain stimulus. When we are forming patterns in our subconscious, and we do so under high emotion or high stress, it's possible to create traumatic patterns. And let me give you an example. Let's say you witness a robbery. You're watching a man rob another man at gunpoint in front of a blue car. You know there's danger. You feel the emotions. You feel the stress. And your subconscious knows that too. But your subconscious doesn't understand. Is it the assailant that's dangerous? Is it the victim? Is it the gun? Or is it the car? So it's completely possible that your subconscious is going to build a traumatic pattern based on that blue car. And afterwards, you may feel completely fine. You may rationally tell yourself, you might consciously tell yourself, I was okay. Nothing happened, so I'm fine. A year from now, you're sitting at home on the couch trying to decide what to have for dinner. What kind of tacos do you want for dinner? When some form of commercial pops up on TV and it's got a blue car on it. And it may just be just the right trigger to relive that moment. You may actually relive that emotion of that robbery. And this happens not just in your mind, but in your body as well. We have something we call the vagus nerve. And it is the main nerve that controls our whole lower extremities. And so as you feel threatened, as you feel that you need to have that kind of fight or flight response, that nerve starts going down to the rest of your body and telling it, we're in danger, get ready for a fight. And then guess what happens? The lower parts of your body send messages back to your brain that says, hey, we're in danger and we're getting ready for a fight. And your brain goes, oh my gosh, everybody get ready, we're going to have a fight. And so it sends itself into a feedback loop. And this is how these traumatic events can cause panic attacks and anxiety. We don't like to compare traumas. Okay? This example earlier may seem like a relatively minor event, but it's not about a scale of I was more traumatized than Bob, or Bob's got a worse one than Mary. It's irrelevant. Traumas are specific to a person, and they can be just as detrimental to the daily life. Traditional therapy relies on session after session of talking through these things and trying to get to the root of why that trauma hurts or why that situation hurts, when you may not even understand the what's and the whys and the hows. So with hypnosis, we can go in and kind of jumpstart that therapy. Okay, I'm not going to say hypnosis is going to solve your trauma, but what it can do is it can take that pain away. If we can identify those trigger points and we can remove those trigger points, now you don't get triggered when you see that blue car. If we can find ways of relieving your anxiety and relieving your stress, even when triggered, maybe life's more tolerable. Now, as you work with your therapist, you can actually get more accomplished faster. We can stop that hurt now as it relates to trauma. So with this, we can actually allow traditional therapy to be much, much more effective.
Thank you for watching our event today. If this has got you curious about hypnosis and what it can do for you, go ahead and contact us. Our information is on the screen right now. We love to talk with people and help them explore how hypnosis can change their lives. We are running a special on our Stop Smoking program. With COVID-19, smokers are the most vulnerable group, and we want to help them get better quick as possible. And our special is running the program at 40% off the original price. And as a bonus for everybody who's made it this far, we have a short video after this showing what is called the bilateral stimulation technique, which is a very fast way to reduce stress and anxiety levels. It takes less than 2 minutes and you will feel better by the end of it. Thank you. Hi, I'm Angela Heine with Manta Mindworks, and I wanted to take a minute and show you a great technique that actually helps with reducing stress and anxiety. And the great part about this technique is if you do it in public, it looks no more unusual as if somebody just absentmindedly playing with their keys. So right now, with the release of quarantine, and there's so much confusion and upset about it, I think anxiety and stress is actually higher than when we were all sheltering in place. So I wanted to just take a minute and show you this technique. And so let's first sit here and think, what is my stress level? On a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed, anxiety am I feeling right now? Great. And now you can pick up an object. It really doesn't matter what the object is. Almost everybody has a cell phone on them. You can use a pen. You can use an egg. Why would you have an egg on you? Why don't you have an egg on you? So take your object and hold it in one hand. And then you're going to hold your other hand out, probably about shoulder width apart, and pass it from one hand to the next. The important thing isn't having them shoulder width. It's you want to cross the center line of your body. So let's close our eyes for a moment and pass it from one hand to the next, making sure that you don't throw your object, but that you're simply passing it back and forth. Great. You're doing great. Now let's open your eyes and watch yourself passing it back and forth, back and forth. And now, let's take that moment and consider how you're feeling right now. Notice the difference that just happened to your anxiety level, the change that's occurred. I've had clients tell me that their stress and anxiety levels went from an 8 to a 3 with using this technique for just a couple of minutes. And I hope that you're feeling the same way now.